Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Welcome in. Hopefully everyone had a good long weekend. Purple Daily family. Our guy Judd and his family are traveling for the next couple days. Judd suffered a loss in his family. His brother-in-law passed away, and so he's with family the next couple days. Send Judd your thoughts at JZilgad on Twitter in the comments section, and the Sports Dad should be back with us later this week, probably like Thursday for Judd. So we figure this would be a fun time to do a little mashup. The Purple Daily on Draft crew, Tyler Forness, Myles, Gorham, and our guy Dex, and do a little Purple Daily PDOD mashup here with some reckless speculation from the weekend.
Reckless speculation.
Which we will get to in just a moment after we shout out Dex, our friends at the Meadows at Mystic. It is golf season. No better place to shoot 105 if you're one of us.
Oh, 105 would be great. If it's 109, 112, I don't care. I'm good with all of it. I think I saw for the weekend forecast, we're like in the 70s and 80s. So it's been a little bit of that slow burn and build up to summer, and it's finally here. It's kind of slapping us right in the face, just like my drive off the fairway. So go to book your tee time now. golfthemeadows.com. You can go to golfthemeadows.com, one of the best places to play at the Meadows at Mystic Lake, a short drive from the Twin Cities. Book your tee time now by going to golfthemeadows.com.
Gentlemen, I'm going to read you something from Pro Football Talk, and I want your reaction, okay? So this is from Mike Florio, piggybacking off of a Charley Walters report. Shooter, he's been a long-time notebook guy, insider for decades in the Pioneer Press. So Florio writes, during the first night of the draft, we caught wind of something that ultimately couldn't be sufficiently confirmed to become an official PFT article. So they caught wind of something. It wasn't enough to just throw it out there to the masses because it was apparently too juicy. So Florio continues, as the unconfirmed rumor went, the Vikings were trying to trade up to the 5th slot with the Chargers with the goal of cutting the line in front of the Giants, with the goal of not taking a quarterback, but instead LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers. It would have massive implications since it would have given the Vikings a trio of first-round receivers and no clear-cut answer at quarterback. Again, we were never able to nail it down enough to post this. But then on Sunday, near the bottom of a Sunday column from Charley Walters in the St. Paul Pioneer Press, Shooter writes, psst, there was a buzz at draft time that the Vikings wanted to move from number 11 to number 5, not to pick a quarterback, but to get LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers, who was picked number 6 by the Giants. Had the trade occurred, Justin Jefferson would have been traded, and Nabers would have been the Vikings' number 1 wide receiver with Jordan Addison.
Wow. Reckless speculation.
We'll start with Forno. Your thoughts?
So I wrote about 700 words on this the other day when all this came out. And I want to give Florio a little bit of credit. He did mention this during his video spots during the night of the draft. So right after the Giants pick, he did mention it. So this isn't just something that he's kind of pulling out of his butt. But I do find it curious that the only two people that are talking about it are Walters and Mike Florio. Florio's broken news before, but he's not an Adam Schefter. He's not an Ian Rappaport. And he hasn't always been right. But I do think there's some nuance here that we need to talk about before we absolutely say that. I'm going to be honest, I don't think this is true at all. But there is one piece of nuance that I think is really interesting. And it came from Kevin Seifert 2 days after the draft. And he talked about how they almost took Dallas Turner over J.J. McCarthy. And quote, but in explaining his decisions last weekend, draft weekend, Adolfo Mensa made 2 primary points. First, he said you never want to give up future picks. Sometimes there's a player within reach who's too much of a, quote, outlier. Adolfo Mensa, in fact, had briefly considered taking Turner with his first pick in the round and then circling back to maneuver for a quarterback. Doing so, he said, would have just been all ego. And then he ended up taking McCarthy over Turner. So I found that part interesting because when you talk about going up to get a guy like Nabers, the Vikings may have considered him an extreme outlier. And if they were willing to do that for Turner, you could make a link. Okay, maybe they're willing to do it for a guy like Nabers as well. The one part that does not make sense to me is that they're willing to trade Justin Jefferson at all, because they've outright said, no, we're not trading him. They have made every intention publicly say, we want to make sure he's paid everything he's worth. It's a champagne problem. We want to make him the highest paid wide receiver, non-quarterback in the NFL. So I don't buy it. I maybe buy that they wanted to go up and get Nabers because they saw him as that outlier. But the trade Jefferson part is where you lose me completely.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nabers is going to be a hell of a wide receiver in the NFL. Him falling to 5 probably had a lot of intrigue with a lot of teams that saw him as a number 1 wide receiver. I think both you guys made a point during the lead up to the draft that if Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't obviously the stud wide receiver he was, Nabers would be the surefire bullet as a wide receiver one in other drafts. Here's where I have a full stop on this. So Justin Jefferson is a superstar player at the top of his position, and I'm okay with paying superstar players at the top of their position. I'm not okay with overpaying for a good wide receiver that isn't great, that isn't the best at what he does. And if you trade away Jefferson, and even though you might be replacing with Malik Nabers, who, yes, I think does have a good case to be a really good NFL wide receiver, I think you're taking away your biggest asset and the most important part of your offense and the linchpin in JJ. So it wasn't a starter for me, Myles, but I know Malik Nabers is probably going to be a hell of a wide receiver. So I'm not sure where you would have fell on this. I know you love Nabers, but I think you also still love JJ probably more than trading JJ to go get Nabers.
Yeah, I mean, I like Nabers, but I had Nabers as my 3rd receiver in this class. I had Roma Dunze as my wide receiver 2. Not anything. I thought those 3 guys were all top 10 prospects, but this doesn't make sense to me. Nothing the Vikings have said or done makes sense for this to make sense. They want to pay JJ, so trading JJ makes absolutely 0 sense. JJ's literally hasn't even hit his prime in the NFL yet, and we see how elite he is, how great he is. So to go trade additional assets to go get Nabers, to then trade JJ just doesn't make sense to me, especially especially for a team that still needed a quarterback. Sam Darnold is not your future; he's your bridge, now quarterback. The idea that they were considering Dallas Turner over JJ McCarthy at 10 and 11, that in itself tells you everything you should need to know. They still prioritize the quarterback over the better prospect, which I think Dallas Turner was a better overall prospect than JJ McCarthy was, if you take position of value away from it. So to me, that just doesn't make sense to then go use draft capital. You would have to use 11 and 23 to go get Nabers at 5, if that's the case. You would have had to. So that to me, then you're up, S Creek right there, because you don't get your quarterback, and now you get another wide receiver to then trade the best player in the NFL. That's not a quarterback. None of that just adds up to me on what they're trying to do roster building wise.
So here's my theory on it. And by the way, just like we did a Jefferson episode toward the end of last week. I'm paying Justin Jefferson if I'm the Vikings. Mm-hmm. I think there's and we can talk about this, and you guys have on Purple Daily on Draft. There's a huge component of what can you put around JJ McCarthy to quickly get him to be the best possible version of JJ McCarthy, and having the best wide receiver in the NFL as part of his growth process. That's going to expedite it. So I'm on the record saying I would absolutely make Justin Jefferson the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Just full stop. But he hasn't signed a contract yet. They've been at the negotiating table for 12 months, maybe 15 months. And until a deal is signed, they have to at least have their eyes open to all options. So the only way this would make sense to me is if they had behind the scenes some Justin Jefferson, very stealthily, some trades lined up where, hey, if the dominoes fall this way, because to your point, to get up to 5, you have to give up 11 and 23. So that means Malik Nabers is your number 1, he's your first round pick, and that's a wrap until the 3rd day of the draft. Unless your next move is trade Justin Jefferson for 2024 draft capital. Because if you can come away, if they decided, listen, he doesn't want to play here, he's keeping it on the down low, but he doesn't want to play here, so we have to trade him. Our hand is forced. You could do a lot worse than replacing him immediately with Malik Nabers and then recouping multiple first-round picks in 2024-25 that then allow you to draft a quarterback still in the 2024 draft. But the question there is, what first-round pick would you have been getting in 2024 for Jefferson from a team in the top 15 that allows you still to take one of the top quarterbacks in the draft? Like, it all feels a little far-fetched and just a little bit. I mean, we love reckless speculation on this show. But to me, the best path for the Vikings is to just pay Justin Jefferson and put him next to J.J. McCarthy and watch J.J. McCarthy have an expedited growth process over the next 2 or 3 years, Forno.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I would pay Justin Jefferson and not even think twice about it. But let's talk about the theory of bringing in Nabers and then circling back up to get a guy like J.J. McCarthy. The idea being, hey, you think Nabers is going to be better than Justin Jefferson. That's not a bet I would make. That's not a bet that I think is very smart. But if you're making that kind of move, that's kind of what you're telling everybody. You think that Nabers has the potential to be better because you're willing to give up the best non-quarterback in football, according to his peers. Because remember, going into 2023, his peers voted him the number 2 player in the NFL, only behind Patrick Mahomes. And you can argue, oh, it's Nick Bosa or it's Myles Garrett. Sure, those are fine arguments, but he's at least top 5.
Or is the argument that maybe maybe Nabers is going to be 80% of Justin Jefferson, but you're going to get him on a rookie scale contract for 4 to 5 years, and he's going to be cheap, and then you can do other things with that money. Maybe that's what their argument would have been. And
that's another big portion of it. I think if we were having the conversation about, let's say Brandon Ayuk, because Ayuk wants a new contract, and there's been a lot of trade speculation about him. Ayuk is somewhere between like wide receiver 8 and wide receiver 15. He's a fringe top 10 guy. Very good football player, but he's not elite. He's not in that top tier echelon of players. So if you were talking about a guy like Ayuk, I think that's a bet you're more comfortable making by taking the high upside guy who's going to be cheaper. But you're talking about Jefferson. Jefferson is on a whole different level. He is on the level of guys like Randy Moss, on the level of guys like Megatron, on the level of guys like Tyreek Hill, who are just special, who are just that good. And while I don't think Jefferson has anything that stands out as like, he is the best at this exact one thing in the NFL other than maybe route running. He's so good at everything that it just elevates him to a different level. Like you don't give up on a guy like that. You don't give up. And he's what, 25 years old? We're not even talking about a guy who's going to be 30 in the next half decade. So I don't see it making sense unless there is actual steam of him wanting out or him, I want to trade and I want it now. And he has shown absolutely nothing to warrant any of that speculation. Look, we talked about it pre-show. This is the end of May, beginning of June. There's nothing to talk about. So why don't we bring something up that might get people engaged? And that's what this Justin Jefferson stuff is to me.
Florio would never, Farno. What are you talking about?
Hey, I might be one of the biggest Florio fans in the world, and I think everybody knows why. But no, it's just to get discussion going, and it's to drive traffic. And look, as somebody who has to do that for a living, I understand it. But no, that he's going to sign the contract. Kwesi Ofamensa says they want to give him an entire week dedicated to Jefferson, celebrating the contract.
They're waiting for the Timberwolves to get eliminated so Justin Jefferson can have his.
I think it's already done. I think the contract's done, and they're just waiting to dot the I's and cross the T's because they want to give him that week. Yeah.
And Myles, we haven't really talked too much about this, at least recently. Phil, Judd, and myself have talked about this on regular episodes of Purple Daily. Are you more inclined with JJ to give him actually a shorter term, 3 or 4 year deal with a bunch of money just in that time period? Or do you want to try, I know there's no fully guaranteed contracts outside of Kirk Cousins in the NFL, but are you looking to more give him a 6 or 7 year huge deal? Or would you rather kind of front load that? Because I personally fall in the front load camp. He's 24, going to be 25 in a couple weeks here. Give him a bunch of money through 28. And then if he wants to get another bag again, in 4 years from now, I'm all for that, but we haven't really discussed what that next contract structure looks like for JJ. If you were helping Kwesi with that capologist side of things, where do you kind of fall on how you'd like to give Justin Jefferson a next contract?
The longer the contract, the better for the team because it'll allow, especially for large contracts, it gives them as much flexibility to move money around as they need to. They can spread out the cap hits as they need to. And that's kind of what you were saying with the short-term like fully guaranteed that type of structure, that's a Kirk Cousins type of deal. Obviously not to the scale of like what quarterbacks are making now. Quarterbacks are making $50+ million a year, but JJ to be in that $35 million range, that's just hard to maneuver without having to kick more money down the road in dead cap and in void years. So I think they would like to avoid that as much as possible. Now, 6-7+ year deals outside of like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, those types of deals don't really happen anymore. Players are not signing those deals, especially high echelon players. They want money now, short term, so that they can re-up again later. And if I'm JJ, I'm not signing anything more than a 4-year deal probably at most. And so I would, if I'm him, that's like, I'm not even considering a 5+ year deal. There's just no way. I want to re-up earlier than that. I want to set the precedent that I deserve what I deserve, and it's front loaded. A lot of cash in my pocket, within the first 2 years of that deal. Now, I think Mackie, you kind of mentioned like the rookie scale contract. I think, in my opinion, you can't set a precedent where like you literally can't pay any player like top end money.
Agreed.
Because at that point, you're just telling rookie players, you might as well leave after your 4 years, 5 years, after we draft you, because we're not going to re-sign you if you're too good. Because then you're just setting a precedent that you don't pay your players, and then what player is going to want to come, re-up with you or try to sign with you? Then they just don't feel like they're valued. And I think that, I'm not saying you were saying that, I just think that's the precedent sets if you're always like, always going to keep every guy in a rookie scale contract. It's like, well, then like you're not going to win anything long term. Like,
yes.
I think the Lions have done a good job of like setting that precedent of like, we're just going to pay our guys timing wise as we need to. They paid, they just paid Amon-Ra St. Brown $30 million a year. And then they paid, how am I blanking on his name already? He's like the best, right?
Oh, well, Jared Goff got paid. Yeah.
And then the right tackle, I can't believe I'm
Penei Sewell.
Thank you. Penei Sewell, got paid like, so, and those are guys are top, not Jared Goff, not as much, but like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sewell are at the top of the market of their positions, right? And so, like, teams are going to pay their players. You have to pay somebody's got to get paid. You have a payroll, right? Like, people have to get paid. And so I think if you're going to pay anybody, Jefferson, out of anybody on your roster, is a guy that deserves it as much or more than anybody else. So, again, I'm not saying you were saying that. I just think I understand the rationale. It's just like, that's why you have a rookie scale contract for a quarterback like JJ McCarthy. You went down that road because paying Kirk Cousins what you were paying him isn't fiscally responsible with where your roster is going. And so like that, again, that gives you room to pay guys like Justin Jefferson, Christian Darrisaw when they come up to be due.
Well, you need, like, I look at it this way. There's like 4 or 5 pillar premium positions that are really expensive in the NFL, right? Like, so just quarterback, left tackle for sure, and then edge rusher on the defensive side, maybe like lockdown cornerback. And then we could debate about, in today's NFL, if you've got a dude like a Justin Jefferson, wide receiver is so important in today's NFL. I think if you look at like those 5-ish positions, you really need like 2 high-end players on rookie scale contracts so that you can build out and pay. And you might have to overpay for a safety or something else as you're building out your roster. And the Vikings, if they hit on JJ McCarthy and if they hit on Dallas Turner, check, rookie scale, go pay Christian Darrisaw, go pay Justin Jefferson, go pay other players at other positions to fill out the rest of your roster. With Kirk, that's the thing. If you start to do the math on like a $240, $250 million cap, if you're going to pay top of the market money at all of those positions, you're going to go broke pretty quickly trying to build your roster. Okay, that's $55 million for a quarterback. It's $25-30 million or more for an edge rusher. It's another $30 million for the receiver. And then the left tackle going to make $20-25 million. Well, you still have 51 roster spots to fill out. So, yeah, I mean, the luxury of having McCarthy, and then if Dallas Turner hits, means you can pay Darrisaw, you can pay Justin Jefferson. One other thing I want to ask you guys, by the way, on the devil's advocate side in just a second. I think we all kind of agree pay Justin Jefferson, but I have a devil's advocate question to throw at you guys after we shout out our friends at Nicolay Law here, Dex, the official, exclusive, reigning, defending personal injury law firm of Purple Daily. Nicolay Law knows that when you or a loved one gets injured, ordinary life can come to a stop and things can get complicated. And during that time, insurance companies are likely to pressure you. They don't care if you get better. That's where Nicolay Law comes in to make sure you get the compensation you deserve after an accident. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers, Nicolay, at nicolaylaw.com or 1-855-NICOLAY. Also, a shout out to our friends at Bachman's. So the Mackies made a fun little trip to the Bachman's in the Golden Valley area off 55 yesterday. I guess technically, is that the Minneapolis or the Plymouth location? Either way, it was down 55. We had a neighbor that we wanted to get some flowers for a birthday. We had some landscaping things we wanted to upgrade. And so we walked into Bachman's, we filled up our cart, and we had a grand old time. If you are looking to upgrade your landscaping game, especially guys out there, you might think Bachman's, isn't that just a flower place? Well, they have beautiful flowers. But they also have the ability to transform your landscape into an oasis for the rest of the season. 15% off pallets of mulch, and they'll deliver to your home as well. And 20% off containers of grown trees, or container grown trees, I should put it that way. Minneapolis, Apple Valley, Eden Prairie, Plymouth, Fridley, Maplewood, and Cedar Acres, Lakeville, our friends at Bachman's are here for your landscaping needs. So here's a devil's advocate question. Maybe not now, but are we getting to the point where the supply and demand for wide receivers is changing so much that it doesn't make sense to pay $30 to $35 million for a free agent to be? And I bring that up because if you look at the last handful of drafts, it is crazy how many high-end wide receivers are. You have access to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 number 1, number 2 caliber wide receivers. I mean, go back. I'm just spitballing here. 2019, Deebo Samuel was in that draft. DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Scary Terry. 2020 was the Justin Jefferson draft. T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr., CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk. Even last year, Rashee Rice, Puka Nacua, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers. 2022, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, George Pickens looks like a dude. Drake London with some competent quarterback play might finally blossom into what he was supposed to be. And I'm like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase, Christian Watson, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. If there's 4 to 5 to 6 guys in every draft, does that price tag start coming down at the top of the wide receiver market, or does it stop making sense to pay for something that you can just get in the draft in any given year? Kind of like running backs in 2024.
I'd say yes and no, and I think it's going to depend on the player. So when you take a look at, and we had the Brandon Ayuk conversation earlier, are you going to want to pay that guy $32 million because he's like a fringe top 10 guy? That's where I'd hesitate. But if you have the guy, you have a Justin Jefferson, you pay him. And I think the prime example of that discussion is the Tennessee Titans trading A.J. Brown because they didn't want to pay him, and they thought they could just replace him with Treylon Burks. Well, Burks was a gadget guy in college, and he needed a lot of development in order to kind of play wide receiver at a much more technical level, which you have to in the NFL. And A.J. Brown has emerged into a top 3, top 5 wide receiver in the league, and the Tennessee Titans had to go overspend on Calvin Ridley, and then they also brought in DeAndre Hopkins to fortify their wide receiver room enough because Burks is now wide receiver 4 going into year 3 in the league. I think there is merit to that. I'll be honest, I would not have paid Amon-Ra St. Brown $30 million. I would have rather traded him and tried to fortify in the draft that way because I just don't think he's an elite player. I think he's a very good player in that same level as Ayuk, where he's like a fringe top 10 kind of guy. But I don't see him as being worth that kind of price point. Now, $30 million at the end of his contract is going to be like pennies on the dollar because in 4 years, Cap's probably going to go up another $150 million. So it's going to look
that's the crazy thing. Yeah.
It's going to look a little bit better. But I think when you're having the discussion about, hey, do you want to pay these guys because there's so much talent coming into the league? You're having the conversation about paying those guys who are on the fringes of being an elite wide receiver rather than paying the elite wide receivers. And I think that's where we can have some of the Moneyball discussions where would you rather have Malik Nabers on the rookie contract or Brandon Ayuk or Amon-Ra St. Brown at $30 million? I think if I were to be able to pick one,
St. Brown.
But some of it depends on your window too, right? Like if you're the Giants, you'd rather have Malik Nabers while you build something for 2025. If you're the 49ers, you're trying to like you've climbed that mountain twice. You'd probably rather have Brandon Ayuk for another year and see if you can make another run at it. So I mean, but it is fascinating that just in the last 2 years, even there's a Puka Nacua, there's a Rashee Rice, there's a Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, Olave, Garrett Wilson. I mean, there's a ton of It's the talent that's blossoming at that position is really interesting the last handful of years. That's my main point.
I think when you look at just to like the highest paid wide receivers going into 2024 on over the cap, it's also it's paying the right ones. Like, look, I like Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's a good wide receiver, but Chris Godwin's the 4th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. You know, Christian Kirk is still up there. He's making $24 million. The Jags completely overpaid for a guy like Christian Kirk.
The Giants paid some dude who was the Lions receiver that the Giants?
Kenny Galladay.
Made like $20 million.
Declan, are you looking at cap hits? Because Godwin signed a 3-year, $60 million deal, and Kirk was 4 for 72. So like some of the cap hits can be a little misleading, but like your point stands.
Yeah, that's where I like, because like JJ, when I look at this, like, look, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, like, yes, Cooper Kupp's battled some injuries, obviously, here the last few years since winning a Super Bowl, but I'm okay with paying JJ because, in my opinion, he is so much better. That gap between Chris Godwin and, you know, the Christian Kirks of the world, I'm okay with that. But Phil brings up an excellent point. Like, you got to pay the right ones. You can't overpay for the good to slightly above average.
Yeah, if you're desperately paying Kenny Galladay when you could go get a rookie scale, you know, what was that, 2021, when you could have probably had Amon-Ra St. Brown. But here, one more question for you guys before we wrap this episode. Is there a world in which you would have been interested in watching Vikings trade up for Nabers, not because they're trading Jefferson, but because they're creating a 3-deep 2.0, and Sam Darnold, age 26, former top 5 overall pick, is the Randall Cunningham, is the Jeff George, is the guy that gets to sit in the vehicle? Like in a parallel universe, that would have been fun to watch any quarterback with any sort of skill set in this offense operate with Jefferson, Nabers, and Jordan Addison with TJ Hawkinson coming back. Or am I the only one? Am I crazy?
I don't think you're crazy from a content perspective. From a content perspective, there's a ton there to work with.
What about from like a wins and losses perspective?
Well, they obviously believe in Darnold, and there's been, a lot of people have written about the fact that, hey, they were comfortable. If they weren't able to get a quarterback, they did believe in Darnold. And I don't think that's false. Like, they paid him the highest of any bridge quarterback in the league, paying him $2 million more than a guy like Jacoby Brissett. So there is a lot of talent with Darnold, and nobody has ever doubted that. It's just being able to piece it together, because playing quarterback is so much more than having raw talent. It is so much of a mental game, so much processing and composure. And he just hasn't had a lot of that. And I think most of that isn't his fault, because he needed a lot of development coming in, and he went to Adam Gase. That is just the final nail in a career coffin. So I would have rather just waited until and traded up with pick 8 and given up your 2 4th-round picks to go get Rome Odunze, because I think Odunze is a better player than Nabers. I think he's a much more complete player. I worry with how much of Nabers' production was strictly on slot fades, that he might have a larger learning curve in the NFL, and that may not ever come to fruition. So I think there's merit to that, but man, I would have loved it 3 deep.
The posters would have been great, huh?
Oh,
the posters would have been great.
You know what? Just give up all your draft capital and get Tetairoa McMillan from Arizona next year, and then create your 3 deep with JJ McCarthy.
Okay, I'm here for that. I love it. All right, guys. Great catching up with the Purple Daily on Draft crew here on the Purple Daily flagship. Myles Gorham, Tyler Forness. We'll see you guys next week on Purple Daily on Draft.